traemos a esta mesa redonda un grupo de fabricantes para hablar de deception y data discovery. Vamos a tratar de ser lo más rápidos con cada uno de ellos y aportaros valor en la solución, mirando desde fuera hasta dentro. Empezaremos mirando desde fuera con Blueleaf, luego pasaremos a la plataforma de deception de Cybertrap, luego
and data discovery is within the company with Microfocus, then malware and behavioral analysis and pattern search with an adaptive defense inside with Barracuda, with email coming in, and finally with lead that will give us the overall vision of everything we have overlooked in our companies. Next wave is continuously scouting for new vendors. Jose Miguel from Blueleaf will tell us. Thank you so much, Juan. Good afternoon, everyone. I'll be very brief. I'll tell you about what we do, Blueleaf, monitoring the external side of companies, so to say. Well, this is where we start at Blueleaf. There's a very wide range of threats out there. If we focus on that concept there, cybercrime, and there is a certain degree of complexity in monitoring all these threats. We monitor different sources which are related to these threats. To give you an example, we're monitoring Pastevin Tor sites, forums where cyber criminals share or offer their services. They sell their credit card details they've just stolen. We also monitor for mobile application threats, leakages in databases. And the main complexity arises from the fact that there are many formats here. So we normalize the information, we enrich it with our research, and then we filter and categorize it in our own internal database. At the end of the day, companies can configure their domains, their IPs, and their email addresses within the system. And as soon as mentions are made in any of the sources, we would notify the company. That is complemented by malware analysis that we carry out on a daily basis. We analyze a large amount of variants of malware codes. We analyze it, we detect connections, the type of encryption that is used, the botnets that are in use. We extract data and we store it. Because this is data discovery. Apart from discovering the data itself, we want to have intelligence and context around the data. So we add a number of services on top of that, like credential monitoring, something that is closely related to the roundtable, which is focusing on data discovery. We tell our clients whenever a credential appears in any of those sites, in private forums or in Tor sites where cyber criminals exchange the information, and also information coming from botnets, which is particularly interesting. I think that basically 100% of organizations have infected computers. That can be malware installed as a pony to steal data, to steal email credentials, for example. those credentials are sent to the server, and the baddies will then use those details for all those things you know about. So it's important to detect a threat, but it's also important to say why it is important, if you know what I mean. What do threats mean? What do they imply? For example, when we say that this credential relates to this botnet, it is this malware doing this, it shows a certain behavior within the sandbox. I'm not sure you're seeing this. Here you see a flowchart for that malware. It is injecting code into another process. It is creating certain files within the system. It is connecting with a certain domain with a certain IP address. So that would be what we call the intelligence around the data that we discover. So we can extrapolate based on this and say this malware is connecting to this domain using this URL. But within our system, we have other malwares that connect with the same URL. So we apply monitoring or follow-up for that. We can analyze the full domain and say, well, this domain is related to this IP. We do inverse resolution towards other domains, which allows us to detect additional campaigns. When you have detected more than one campaign, you can start distinguishing different patterns within those campaigns to try and find out who is behind the scenes. The person or persons, this would be the hashes. When we say that this group may be behind this campaign, the context would tell us that this is a targeted or a normal attack. It is not just about discovering, it is about providing our clients with intelligence around the data that we have discovered, what each threat implies for each company.
Muchas gracias, Luis. Vamos a seguir ahora rápido con voy a ver si me aclaro, Nacho. Sí. Joder. Estamos en la última. Más claro la última. Yes. Now let me introduce you to Avi Kravitz. Avi Kravitz is the CTO of Cybertrap.
Sistemas de Cybertrap, que es una plataforma de deception, nos va a hablar de la tecnología, nos la va a explicar y nos va a contar un caso práctico. Me han dicho que hasta la hora de la comida se sigue diciendo buenos días en España y como no hemos comido, pues ala. Eso es la primera buena noticia. La segunda es que yo, al menos una vez en la vida, siempre deseé haber estado en la pantalla gigante de un cine muy grande. Ahí estoy. Bueno, hoy os voy a dar una introducción sobre la tecnología de deception. ¿Cuántos conocen la tecnología de deception? Las luces son muy potentes y no veo bien. Bueno, somos una de las empresas fundadoras de este ámbito, ¿no?, de tecnología de deception. ¿Qué significa esto? Bueno, yo he sido responsable de respuesta a incidentes de un equipo muy grande, de uno de los más grandes de Europa, y después me dediqué a analizar incidentes, fundamentalmente empresas objeto de ataques, porque sabemos que cuando alguien quiere entrar encontrará una forma de entrar.
Bien, entonces veamos los elementos que son necesarios para detectar el ataque. Es decir, cómo abordamos el problema y cómo cambiamos el paradigma de la ciberseguridad. Bien, la Cybertrap. Cybertrap tiene que ver con una serie de reglas sobre la infraestructura que apuntan a distintos elementos. Es muy importante detectar aquellas amenazas no conocidas y después también los ataques dirigidos. ¿Y cómo lo hacemos? Cybertrap tenemos apuntadores claves, por ejemplo, contraseñas, conectores de bases de datos, todo lo que pueda ser interesante para breachear. Y después, por otra parte, tenemos los decoys. Los decoys son como honeypots. Son una manera de abordar esta deception en el honeypot. Puedes coger cualquier servicio, y hacerlo cada vez más intolerante a ese entorno. Es decir, que el atacante entra en la infraestructura a través de estos apuntadores y nosotros obtenemos información sobre lo que pasa después de la vulneración. Si hablamos de los apuntadores, de los lures, puede estar mapeado en el punto final de manera invisible y después, por otra parte, tenemos las contraseñas que están almacenadas en la memoria. Y alguien está utilizando algunos de estos lures, acaba aquí. Y nosotros sabemos inmediatamente qué es lo que está pasando en esa máquina. Y a partir de ahí podemos profundizar en el evento y saber más y más. Es decir, porque yo he trabajado mucho en forénsica, quiero saber qué es lo que pasa y quiero saberlo rápido, quiero tener respuestas rápidas. Así que por eso hemos desarrollado esta herramienta. Así que al final se trata de tener datos sobre las amenazas. Es decir, información sobre cualquier vulneración. Y ahora no estoy hablando de las direcciones IP ni de hashes, sino que simplemente estamos yendo a la parte más alta de la pirámide y para ello voy a ilustrarlo con un ejemplo. Bien, la primera APT que nosotros detectamos con Cybertrap fue hace 3 años. Estoy muy orgulloso porque fue el primer logro que nosotros tuvimos desde que arrancamos la campaña. Y uno de estos entornos de deception se vio vulnerado y a partir de ahí yo recibí un mensaje. Es decir, a través de una serie de conexiones de malware. Y aquí vimos lo que había pasado exactamente dentro de esas máquinas. Y estábamos hablando de un cliente que tenía muchísimos elementos de prevención aplicados en los equipos para protegerse. Y nosotros recibíamos peticiones todo el tiempo, pero ni siquiera ninguna solución pudo detectar esta actividad de escaneo. Y aquí vemos el fin de semana, aquí vemos cómo frenan la actividad los fines de semana, es decir, que esto nos indica que están trabajando, hacen todo esto para ganar dinero, es decir, trabajan de lunes a viernes y el viernes se toman el fin de semana de descanso. También vimos que teníamos estas lures en toda la infraestructura. Una era la inyección de código, la otra era un archivo roto. También encontramos una shell china y también vimos que habían inyectado malware en la máquina. Imaginaros, yo estaba ahí comiendo palomitas y me llegó este mensaje. Aquí había 3 archivos y aquí el ejecutable estaba firmado como McAfee. Y dije, oh. Ya me acuerdo de estos certificados que llevaban este mismo nombre hace unos años. ¿Qué más encontramos? Encontramos herramientas. y vemos que el malware cambia la firma. Pero las herramientas que están utilizando suelen ser más o menos las mismas. Es decir, si puedes coger estas herramientas y recibir y sacar información productiva en tu infraestructura, estás mejorando o dándole resiliencia a tu infraestructura de seguridad, de protección. Aquí vimos cómo el atacante iba pasando de una máquina a otra. Bueno, y también se equivocó, puso aquí una serie de errores gramaticales. Y en la capa de deception teníamos datos que son documentos con marcas de agua. Es decir, alguien, en el momento que alguien está robando documentos, podemos identificar cómo se mueven los documentos por la infraestructura. Es decir, si alguien está robando información de esta infraestructura, yo puedo cambiar toda la cadena de instrucciones, de comandos, y de manera que yo pueda identificar quién está realizando el ataque, porque yo tengo información de quién lo está robando y quién estaba cogiendo estos documentos y se los estaba reenviando a los clientes. Y eso es lo que nosotros hacemos en nuestro centro de seguridad, de operaciones de seguridad. Para resumir, ¿por qué Cybertrap? Las lures nos permitieron detectar al atacante de manera rápida. Es decir, en el momento que alguien toca un lure, nosotros recibimos una información inmediata de este compromiso. Es decir, si nosotros podemos identificar algo, quiere decir que alguien ya está dentro de la red. Y a partir de ahí nosotros establecemos o generamos inteligencia de amenaza sobre esta amenaza, y eso es algo que tú no puedes comprar del mercado. ¿Por qué no? Porque las firmas no están disponibles para este tipo de ataque. Es decir, que si han comprado los controles preventivos que tienes aplicados, esto quiere decir que son imposibles. Es decir, que la inteligencia, los datos que conseguimos a través de estas soluciones de deception significa muchísimo dinero. Al final, tienes esta información que la pones en tu infraestructura, y, como digo, tienes esa información, la pones, la introduces en tu infraestructura y a partir de ahí la compartes. Y así es como nosotros abordamos este problema de seguridad cuando estamos hablando de estos ataques avanzados que sufren las empresas a través de nuestro Cybertrap. Muchas gracias. Next speaker is Juan Moreno. He comes from Micro Focus, and he will tell us about data discovery within the company. My name is Juan Julián Moreno. I am the responsible for Preventa for ING Solutions for Micro Focus for South Europe. So 2 weeks ago, when I was asked to come here to give you a presentation for experts such as yourselves, and I say, well, will I be able to do that, considering that managers are not good into technical things? Anyway, I will do my best. I don't know whether you are aware of this topic. It is a very trendy topic. And the first thing that I'm going to do with you is to share 3 use cases, 3 real solutions, so that you are aware of the problems that we try to fix with that. And then I will move on to a couple of slides where I will be sharing with you the architecture that we use for that. The first use case is about a client from the transportation industry. He's got a file repository that is growing a lot. Backup takes a long time. There is a long, big tree of files with the small files. Users upload that with files, but because of the trade unions, I cannot really go into these files to see what is happening. It is there, it is growing, I am storing them, I'm giving them a storage space, but I don't know what to do. I need a tool to connect there, to analyze, scan all the files, to index them, and first of all, for the tool to tell me what is in there, and so that the tool is smart enough that if I change the extension of the file, continues to tell me, look, this is a video, this is a Word file. And why do I want to do that? Well, I want to do that for many reasons. First of all, because I don't know whether that intelligence will compromise my company somehow because that information is illegal, or because I just want to migrate data to the cloud and I just want to clean up data. So use case number one, first of all, we have to analyze those files and then to attack the meta data of those files. This will tell me whether those files have not been accessed in the last 2 years, whether there are 25 copies around, or whether these are files from, I don't know, CAD files, but in the end, actually they are videos. Okay, use case number two, manufacturing company of aerospatial engines. So this client called us because they wanted to have an understanding of 2 repositories, first system and then another one in the set point, and then for us to check that. They give us terabyte of intelligence. This is what IT people use to share their files. Okay, we ran the analysis and we found out 2 things. First, a plain file with all the keys for all the Wi-Fi for the whole company. Okay, someone has copied that, well, to move it from one place to another, and it is sitting there. Okay, but secondly, we found the drawings of a missile from NATO. So, what does that come from? Okay, please send me the drawings, the drawing files, and then it stayed there. So with this I mean that we don't know what we have. Third use case, banking sector client concerned about the GDPR, the new data protection regulation, and he wants to protect data in his environment. So we have oracles, my SQLs, my mainframe, and then a wonderful database and information that I want to look into. So I need a tool connecting all these environments, connecting all these databases, and then from grammar that I give to it, I will tell him what to find for me. So those 3 use cases are cases we've worked on in 2 months. Okay, so since we started 2018. Okay, so this is the architecture that we use. So we have 2 products connecting to different repositories. There is a difference between talking to a database and to an open environment. Then we have a central engine applying policies through these 2 elements against these or versus these repositories. So we will not be only happy with finding information, we want to have possibility to act, to take action on those data. And if necessary, when we find out what they are, to delete them if they are to be deleted. It's a mistake just to keep intelligence just in case. We just want to delete anything that may potentially compromise us. And all in all, manage that. How do we do that? We do that through 3 different products in our portfolio. Control Point, we use it to access these open repositories, file systems, Google Drive, you name it. So the enterprise content management, we use it to access databases, and then we have this central engine, which is the that was the content management. It is very important. Well, managing data does not mean that you have to move metadata. It's about managing that data wherever they are. Okay, so these are screenshots about our tools. They are highly visual. In all of them, we have the possibility to create grammars. We have a number of standard grammars already in place. However, we can create others and compile the grammars that we need for our purpose. And this is a view of what we can do in SDM, which is exactly the same. That is to say, using grammars that defined by us, for instance, a grammar for the banking sector. where we have all the different ways of storing a bank account, so that by the time I try to find that information, I know where to find it. Okay, and this is all from me. Thank you very much. Now we move on to Adapt and Defense. Raúl Pérez from Panda. Hello, welcome. Hello, each and everyone. Drawing on what Juan told us in terms of data control, there is a big why about that, and especially why it's about the structured data. All companies have files all around the company across different PCs, files over which we have no control whatsoever. Problems about that are well known by all of us. Lots of data leakages, so clear cases of Yahoo and others, big problems. Well, these problems have demolished many companies, have hurted many other companies significantly. So some of these companies are the value drop in the stock exchange, negative advertising, or so unexpected costs, interruption of business, etc. So what we try to do is to put order in all that, because we have an agent in each workplace. So what we do is to find all the files in each workplace, and then we monitor that information and we check whether it is at risk of being exfiltrated. So this is a demo showing a lateral attack through a file, through a compiler. So this is a brief example as to how we detect this type of threats. Okay, give me a sec. So Juan, tell a practical joke, please. So the idea is that you get a view from the outside to the inside. In the side of deception, that is the difference between setting up your own honey pots in your company or a sinkhole, and then to look from that from the outside based on discovery strategies versus a service. Instead, well, compared to the handcraft search that you may do yourself, and then the importance of looking inside. There are no platforms or magics with DLP allowing you to control everything. It's about ongoing search. Also, the importance of looking into each Excel file, looking into the behavior of it, disassembling it or decompiling it, as Raúl would just show you. All right, so this is my example. So approach, well, what do we do with malware? We not only trigger and alerts. Okay, let's take a look at this specific malware. We see activity at all times, and we monitor what the malware does. So we see all the full behavior since the beginning, since it started went into the workplace, and then we see a timeline. We see what it did, how it tried to write logging scripts, connecting to processes. We see all the movements. So we are analyzing all that in big data, and we receive between 250 and 400,000 samples that are analyzed every single day in depth. Our big data is powerful enough to analyze this high number of samples. The sample that I want to share with you in terms of data protection is this one here, which is a file that skipped all the network countermeasures. So we have this file with no big issues. So we look at the activity. So this file accessed the compiler. When it did that, it generated the doc SSR and went into the PC and copied all the Excel and Word files to exfiltrate them. So this is a methodology which is usually used in this type of attacks, and we try for not only for the malware not to run itself, but to have to monitor all those files through our CM platform. CM platform receives all those events, so we can see all the operations, all the actions that are done for those files, whether they have been opened, copied on a USB, whether there's been an attempt to exfiltrate them. So at all times we can see what happens with that information, where it goes to, what is done with it. We also control the risk of exfiltration and what's being done with those documents. So the idea is to give global visibility, global view as to what is happening to that information, where is that information going. For us, this is vital. Most companies do not have this type of information, this type of control, which we believe is extremely important. All right, so thank you very much to everyone for your attention. Okay, we give the floor to Antonio Roma. No, sorry, to Clarabelli. He will tell us about Barracuda. Thank you very much, Juan. Good morning. It is not afternoon yet, because we are before lunch. Okay, so it's an honor to be at RigidCon, surrounded by security experts. I don't consider myself to be an expert, but just a person who has learned everything I know from the internet. And well, the problem with the internet, or the good thing about the internet, is that everything is in there. The good things and the bad things. This allows us to get lots of intelligence, to share that intelligence, and this is what have made us experts on this topic. So therefore, we believe that it is very important to make use of that intelligence to protect data and businesses of companies. So intelligence against threats and for data protection. Obviously, one of the most important elements when it comes to this intelligence is spear phishing. So, well, we all know them. We may have tried them and see what happens when they are run in company, and what are the main risks that companies face when it comes to applying advanced techniques to human deception. So we know that there are more and more complex services on the internet. We have the ransomware as a service available, so all these technologies are becoming more and more modular in nature. So therefore, we have to work at the same levels than cybercrimers, and we also have to work and improve these techniques. And actually, they're also looking for customer satisfaction, looking for offering chat box in cases of kidnapping or ransomware. So they do not only work from 9 to 5, but they have a call center ready to take our requests. So this is one of the Barracuda systems. This is about detection of advanced threats. So Barracuda has an advantage because it is the manufacturer that has the highest number of security devices in place, is ready, it's in a good position to apply security measures. So because we have data. So at the worldwide level, we use a number of parameters to look for this security. So we have learned from the main risk from society, which is pandemics, and by applying similar algorithms to those detecting infections and pandemics, we applied them to the internet. So therefore, Barracuda system uses a number of advanced technologies to find out what is happening in all these security devices implemented in the world to have detailed information as to what happens. Obviously, analysis of signatures, of behavior, static analysis, and obviously, last layer, when the other three filters have been overcome, sandboxing. And then from there, well, we may run or may not run the file and work with the intelligence or information that we're getting. What is the information of all that? Well, considering all the devices available to us, we are in a position to collect information all throughout the process up until the data reaches the company. And this can be done anywhere in the world. Once the malware activity is detecting any of the layer, that layer informs the rest of the layers so that that information is blocked in an advanced and in a fast manner. So a security threat detected in a place in the world is transmitted fast to the rest of the devices in the world. So a specific example. This is what we use for email, where we apply artificial intelligence technology to detect spam phishing cases, and as well as domain fraud technologies by using DMARC and also fraud simulation to have users trained on that. Why do we do that? By applying artificial intelligence, we will be detecting the patterns of communications in place in the company so that we know whether the email is legit or has been changed. So we identify abnormal signals. Well, in the beginning it was easier because it was about a bad translation in the email, but now we can analyze writing patterns, giving us the clue and telling us this is not legit email, and then we put all those systems into quarantine. So we use DMARC to manage the domain. That's the best way to check that it has been sent in a legit manner. So therefore, we have a great capability to protect both senders and recipients, as well as spoofed emails. And we also make fraud simulations in the company. We'll tell you more about it later on, because we actually look for those people that we really want to be trained on those specific security patterns, also that they have good training and good awareness about spear phishing, and the actual platform allows us to generate internal phishing campaigns in the company to increase training and awareness of our people so that they become firewalls. And I'm ready for any questions that you may have for me. Thank you. Now we give the floor to Antonio Ramos. All right. So see what Antonio has for us. So companies hire him to find out whether that they will be launching is feasible, okay? So thank you very much, Juan. When I talked to Juan about this and I said, what do you want me to go there? We are not technology providers. He said, no, you come over here. You go over there and you tell us exactly about what I will be telling you. So I will be telling you about transparency and guarantee. For those of you that have attended rooted editions before, we were here 3 years ago talking about LIT, which is a security rating agency.
It evaluates the strength of any security measures that are put in place by companies where the information is stored, whether things have been misplaced. But the time has come. Once you know what the information is, you have to protect it. So for those of you in charge of protecting, you need to know how robust your measures are. And for those that trust you, they have a tool that tells them, really from the outside, how robust you are in your security systems. So far, everything we had to do this was perhaps convincing the senior management that we needed a management system in place. You will get a 27001 stamp or seal telling you that you are hyper secure. That is simply rubbish. No one has that? So that only tells you that your security system is well managed, but it doesn't say anything about its strength. A lot of people forget about their providers. You are looking inwards, you're looking at yourself without realizing that you may have 300, 500 or 2,000 providers connected to external systems all over the place and handling information that comes from you in their own systems. And you have no idea what they're really doing with it. Yeah, sometimes you send them a form and you tell them, please say yes to all of these. And they always say yes to all of these. Okay, they check all the boxes. You store that form and then you say to yourself, oh yes, these guys are rocking it. Anyway, that's the world around us, okay? The optimistic view. As Juan was saying, how do we do our appraisals, our assessments? We have a simple test in place with some 1,200 questions. I mean, no shitty tests in our case. But jokes aside, if you want a serious test, you really need to have all the relevant questions in it. This is only for the brave. For 12 main areas of security, anything you can think of. By the way, if you think of something which is not on this slide, tell us. We will include it in our system. We would need to know how secure your organization is, if you want us to take a look, of course. And for that, you need a proper analysis. People are doing that, looking at the IP addresses from the outside, based on the reputation for those IP addresses. I don't want to know how you are doing internally. Well, we focus on both sides, outside and inside. That's 1,161 questions, which are mapped to some 30-something regulations in effect throughout the world. This is the most comprehensive set of questions about security that we know of. It takes a while to respond to everything, and obviously we tell people whether they're a D, a C, an A, a B, an A, or an A+. A+ means invulnerable? No way. That doesn't exist. It means that if you're working with someone that is delivering an A+ service to you, it is less likely that you will have security problems than if you're working with someone that has a D. As simple as that. Okay, it's like when you buy a washing machine, when you say A+ or A+++, I have no idea about energy efficiency, but for certain, you know that an A+ washing machine is better than a C washing machine. Well, as simple as that. We want to be user-friendly, and we want to help anyone to put in place a tool that is real, a tool that helps you realize where you stand. Okay? So you need to know where the data is, but you need to establish a system which will be proportional to the criticality of the data that you have. And you may achieve a D, a C, a B, whatever, depending on what you use that data for. And then there's another part, which is repeating this continuously on a regular basis. But I will not tell you about the details, otherwise we'll go straight into dinner rather than lunch, okay? That was everything from me. It's always a pleasure to come to RootedCon. Thank you.
Y ahora por continuar y brevemente.
And now, just to move on, and briefly, I have a set of questions with me. one of those questions I ask from Abby, why is it better to use your platforms rather than using your own honeypots and your own things?
Cybertrap technology instead of a typical sinkholes and honeypot strategy.
Well,
¿Usar vuestra plataforma es mejor? Bueno, a ver, hay una diferencia entre honeypot y la tecnología de deception. Fundamentalmente, los honeypots tienen una interacción muy limitada. Si hay un humano detrás que ha identificado que es un sistema honeypot o algo parecido, una solución de deception da al atacante todas las posibilidades. Pueden hacer lo que quieran al 100%, y no solo sobre una única máquina, sino sobre toda la infraestructura. Yo creo que esa es la principal diferencia con los sistemas honeypot. Los honeypots eran buenos en el pasado cuando no había tanto ruido en Internet. Hoy, si ponemos una máquina no parcheada en Internet, uno se infecta en cuestión de menos de un minuto, aproximadamente. Así que los honeypots son buenos para las estadísticas, para ver qué está pasando. Pero si uno quiere ir más allá, tendría que utilizar tecnología de tipo deception para las amenazas que tenemos hoy en día.
So with sinkholes inside the company is the...
Y luego dentro de la empresa es una pérdida de tiempo utilizar un sinkhole. Bueno, un sinkhole es... A ver, deception y sinkhole son dos conceptos distintos. Sinkhole es una posibilidad adicional cuando uno tiene que redirigir direcciones IP maliciosas o dominios. Uno puede utilizar tecnología de deception que nos diga que nos dé lo mejor de las dos partes, información sobre la infraestructura de deception, para ver dónde está todo ocurriendo, qué máquinas están comprometidas. ¿De acuerdo? Pues gracias. Another question, this goes to José Miguel. How important is it to do credential search as early on as possible? Is that what we should be concerned with? Is that what everyone is looking at? Well, talking about credentials, it may sound simple. Your credentials for email are stolen, and you might say they cannot do too many things with that. But the reality tells us a different story. In recent years, email credential theft can be very critical. It can become a very strong vector for entry into any type of organization. If it's email credentials, a targeted attack may be set up towards someone in the organization, sent through someone that knows that person. A targeted attack with spear phishing. If we're talking about attacking systems, from a non-critical system, attackers may compromise additional boxes and end up compromising most of the infrastructure, then monetizing the intrusion. We have seen huge gaps in different organizations that started with a simple theft of email credentials. So detecting this as early as possible is important. If you find credentials in Pastebin, which may be 3-4 years old, and for which the password has been changed, that is very different from detecting a live infection within a certain organization. That can be part of an attack happening right now, okay? So the sooner we can do things, the sooner we can detect those threats, the sooner we can act.
Gracias.
Thank you so much, José Miguel. Another topic for Juan Julián. The type of patterns you're looking for within the company. Do you look for all sorts of patterns that you could look for? Well, there's many things that can be found. credit card details, bank account details. Let me give you an example of a real case. At a certain bank where they were doing trading, the trading operators have telephone conversations. There are tools where everything is recorded, and the regulators requests that information for certain transactions must be submitted because there is a suspicion. You should be in a position to find all that information, and not just on those files, structured or unstructured, but also the voice recordings for certain transactions. All of that can be done. Thank you. And last but not least, to Raúl on threat hunting. What are you doing that makes a difference in your case? Well, 3 billion events, new events every year, processed by a platform, a hunting and detection platform, and leveraging the fact that we have quite a few people working on this. We can see what the attackers are doing, lateral movements, basically in real time. We see how these real times evolve. We see how they how they input the codes through the keyboard. And since we have this in almost near real time with big data as well, we can have indicators of attacks and indicators of compromise. We go beyond what most people do. Rather than focusing on IOAs or IOCs, that's not hunting, that's detecting. We do the hunting part in near real time, creating attack premises, analyzing movements. This is the latest technology that we have implemented, and the truth is that we have been able to extract quite a lot of interesting information. We've been able to detect intrusions and a lot of interesting details. When they're there, that means that they've gone through the proxy and the firewall. The last part, the last mile, is the workstation, and that is what we need to focus efficiently. Thank you, Raúl. In searching for those patterns, do we have that for email? Well, at Barracuda, our philosophy is rather simple. Since we have protection through the firewall, through the email gateway, including the backup systems, this is very straightforward. Talking about email, we focus on integrating and detecting what is happening within the email system as such. We use the data, we use the algorithms, we use the way people write to ascertain the typical pattern of communication, how people use their grammar, how people use their syntax in order to be able to detect spear phishing. So it's quite advanced. On top of that, we want to be able to alert at any stage, for example, with advanced sandboxing. We know that there is malware that detects that it might be in a sandbox, so it wouldn't get executed, no problem. Sandboxing is a next generation system which avoids that detection on the side of the malware. So we do our best to stay one step beyond the baddies, and we have a presence in any stage. So searching for patterns in email is only a natural element of our approach, so that we can update our systems, we can have our systems with the latest technology and procedures in place. Thank you so much to all of you. I know you must be really hungry. Let me tell you that we are looking for people to work for many of these vendors, typically in pre-sales and research. So go ahead and send your CV if you're thinking of applying for any positions within any of these companies. Any questions from the floor? Do you see a trend towards a net that will become impossible to be opened, since Google are launching protocols like HSTS? Do you see a trend towards protecting endpoints throughout the internet? Well, if you ask me, I'll say yes. That's my job. What we have seen is that because of this type of protocols and perimeters, it's getting more and more complex. seeing what is happening is more and more complex. Can you hear me? If we go to the endpoint, we see everything. So we're in the right place. But with these new protocols that cannot be seen, they are making things more complex in terms of the perimeters, but we are in the endpoint, and that makes life easier for us. If you take a look at companies focusing on the perimeter, they've actually acquired companies that focus on securing the workstation or the workplace. So the trend is clear towards the workplace rather than the perimeter. So nothing else? Thank you so much.